Welcome once again to another live stream on this Wednesday. As always, we do the live stream Wednesdays here at Randy's Guitar Attic. And last week we were off because we were on vacation. We went off the grid for a whole week and had a great time. I'm a little more tan than I was the last time I was on here. And that's because I was in the Caribbean. Yes, we're down to the beautiful ABC Islands. So it's a great time, great time. So we'll see how today is. We'll check out and see if we have any people coming on today. Let me see here. I'm gonna try to do some different stuff today and see if anything comes up. All right, let's see if I can pull this up here. Now I might be able to see. Hey, what's happening, Eric? How are you? We're gonna look here, pull that down. Maybe I can see you guys talking to me. So, anyways, so today we'll just kind of like talk about stuff. As always, it's just kind of a free-for-all, as always. A lot of people have been talking this week about Reverb being bought by Fender. And I've had a couple of people ask me whether I thought that was a good thing or a bad thing. Let's see, I don't know why this is not pulling up everything on my live chats over here. Anyways, I was trying to make them streamline. But anyways, yeah, we want to talk about a little bit about the Reverb thing, about them being bought by Fender, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. I know a lot of people have talked about it. Personally, I think it may maybe a bad thing in a little ways. I mean, a lot of people said it might be a good thing, but I kind of think it's like kind of like the days when Reverb was owned by the guys at Chicago Music Exchange. When I know when Scott and them had it back in the early days, it wasn't that bad, but once it got turned over to the second edition of it, you really, I mean, you would post stuff right up online like that, and boom, you'd get an instant email from Chicago Music Exchange. Hey, I see you have a Fender P-Bass for sale. I see you have like $700 on it. We can offer you $400. I mean, I guess that's a good thing, just kind of mosey on them, but they kind of had a monopoly, kind of like, you know, kind of like at a guitar show, we have guys that'll get the very first booth that have really deep pockets, and as you come through the door, they buy everything good. So everybody behind them never sees anything good. It's all scooped up by them. So that's not always a good thing to have. Like I always tell the guitar show people, you know, don't put these guys with these huge pockets at the front door, because you know the rest of us who don't have huge pockets will never see anything at all. We won't even have a shot at it. It's always better, I think, for a guitar show to have people that don't have the huge pockets at the front door. They might buy a few things. Like me, I'll buy a few things at a guitar show, yes, but majority of the time, I'm not going to pay what somebody else bought a San Dimas Charvel. Awesome, cool, good for you. That's awesome. Great guitars. We got one back here, a couple of them back here. Yeah, so yeah, I don't think it's a good thing to have guitar people at the front door that have a box. Whoever, oh, sure. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's true. Yeah, Reverb, I mean, with Fender having it, now, Fender may, you know, they may, who knows, maybe somebody will post a 1958 Strat that's like a really early number, and Fender may say, listen, we need that one for our collection, and may go in there and maybe lowball this guy and say, hey, we want to put it in our museum. And it could happen. I don't know. You never know. Maybe they won't put Gibsons at the very top of the list. Maybe it'll all be Fender, 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 and a Gibson way down here, and maybe a PRS down low. I don't know. I mean, they can do whatever they want with it, once they take control of it. I mean, it's not total Fender. Now, it's a private equity firm that actually has shares in Fender, so it may not turn out that way. I mean, everybody keeps talking about it's Fender, 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 but it's actually not. It's, somebody else that they have several ties into other musical ventures as well, and they have part of Fender. And I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see what happens once that whole deal goes through and Etsy is gone. Etsy, if you don't know, Etsy owns or has owned Reverb for a little while. And, they got in there and they raised the prices up, because back when Scott and the guys owned it, it was like only 2.5, and it was really cheap. It was way better than, doing eBay. eBay was, what at that point, it was like 5 or 6%. And they came in, did half. So you could put your stuff on Reverb and, maybe make a dime on it. Now it's become, Reverb to me is, I don't know. It's almost like the Wild West, like eBay had become prior to Reverb. It was crazy the way I looked at it, because you could go on eBay and stuff would be a little overpriced, I thought. eBay, I kind of like eBay better than Reverb myself. I think eBay is actually more fair as far as pricing goes. As far as everything else goes, maybe not. They charge a little bit more, and then you got to go through all the other fees, go down the line and stuff, and I don't know, that part bugs me a little bit. I don't like to sell online personally. I'm not a real big person to try to sell stuff online. I would prefer people come into the shop, buy it in the shop, so I can have a personal experience with you and make sure that the guitar I'm selling you is the right guitar for you. If a guy comes in and he says, I want a Paul Reed Smith, and he gets on it, he plays it, and he says, I didn't realize the necks were kind of like that. Yeah. Well, I didn't realize there was more mid-range in it than like a Les Paul. I thought it was kind of like a Les Paul. No, it's not. And it's a little bit more personal. When you buy stuff online, you kind of are expecting it to be like another guitar that you saw in another shop, maybe, or maybe you just saw somebody online playing it and you just automatically assumed that this guitar that you're buying from this guy on Reverb or eBay is going to be exactly like that guitar. Or their opinion telling you to buy this guitar is going to be exactly what you want. And then you get it and you go, I don't like the way this thing plays. No, I don't like the way it sounds. I'm going to send it back. And I'm losing my $100 or so because I got to ship it back. Unless they have a deal where you free shipping back. Most of the time I don't see a lot of that. But I do know people that do that. But that's another thing. Like me, I couldn't offer that. I could not offer free shipping back because I'm already paying the credit card fee that's already processed. And there's still fees that they're going to charge either way. and then I've got to ship it back and eat that shipping. You know, so it doesn't make sense. When you get guitars online, is like buying big ears. I don't know what that is. And you deal experience. Yes, I deal with experience, actually. Yes. So, I try to create an experience that you'll enjoy the guitar, and I'm very personal about that. That's how we've been here for 23 years, trying to make sure everybody gets the right piece in their hands. We try. It's not just in and out. A lot of stuff. We put guitars on the wall that we hope people will like. Everything in here comes in here. I personally buy because I think it's a good guitar. I'm not just buying stuff to buy. Unless there's like a collection that I have to buy these guitars. Because that does happen. There are times I'll go buy a collection of 25 guitars or whatever, and there may be 5 or 6 guitars in there that I'm not real hip on. Yeah, there's a lot of left-handers back there. No, I know I'm left-handed today. I'm left-handed, but I'm not. I don't know why that does that. Let's see if this does anything. Hold on. No, that shows the back of the box. So. All right, so it's a roller coaster. Yes, sirree, Bob, it is. It's a roller coaster Wednesday here on the Guitar Addict. Talking about Reverb a little bit. We'll talk about some other things as well. Whatever you guys want to shoot out at me, I can kind of shoot some stuff as well. As always, we kind of try to cater this particular show to you. I'm still trying to figure out what's going on here with some of my. I was trying to see some of the chats come up here. But they are not. I don't know why. I have no idea. No idea. Anyways, so, what else was I going to talk about? I was going to talk about my vacation. So I did go to the ABC Islands. I did try to go to a music store while I was down in Aruba. Unfortunately, we did not get there because it was a little too far out of the way. I looked at the map before I went there. I was going, I can go to this Clifford music store, and it's in Aruba. It's in the area I'm at. I talked to this cab guy, and he says, "No, that's quite a ways away. That would cost a lot of money." I'm like, really? He goes, "And no guarantee you'll get back." I was like, no, not doing that, because here I am, I'm on a ship, and I have a certain amount of time I have to get back to the ship, and I don't want to be stuck in the middle of Aruba. I mean, it's not a bad place to be stuck at, because there are great places in Aruba, but, I'm thinking, I don't know what this place actually has. I'm kind of hoping they have some stuff, but they don't. Why are 70s Les Paul expensive? And, well, I got part of that. Why are 70s Les Pauls expensive? That's a great question. Because, all right, so let's talk about that with vintage guitars. And I know my buddies up at Casino actually talked a little bit about this recently, about vintage guitars. New eras get worse, not necessarily. So where's the cutoff for vintage? I know those guys, Baxter and Sean and them were kind of talking, and Jonathan and all, and we're talking about, yeah, got part of that. We're talking about kind of the cutoff years. They kind of like, the rule is 25 years, all right? 25 years is considered vintage, supposedly. I think that goes with cars. Because a car, like in Florida, when you get a car and you hold on to it for 25 years, my wife actually has a 2001 Toyota 4Runner. She won't get rid of it. I've offered, I said, let's go get another car. Nope, I'm not getting rid of it. Just paint my car. We painted the car. She's got a nice blue car, Toyota 4Runner with black rims. It looks like one of the new ones. She's got 150,000 miles on it. Drives it to work every day. And she's eligible for a antique tag next year. Because 25 years in Florida, you can get an antique tag for your car. Guitars are different. Now, a 2000, ESPs are great guitars, and yeah. Anyways, but the thing about the vintage stuff, a 2000 Strat, or like these 90s Strats I have back here, and the Les Pauls and stuff like that from the early 2000s, are those vintage? No, they're just guitars. Here's a 91. This is a 91 Paul Reed Smith. All right, is this considered vintage? Is this? Do you think this is vintage? I mean, in your opinion out there, I'm asking you guys. Is it really as blurry as what it looks like on the screen here? I'm wondering, did I blank out a little bit? Did I connect? So is the feed trying to go away, guys? Because you guys can see this. I can only see it on the other screen, but I don't know if that is my personal connection here. Anyways, but is a 91 Paul Reed Smith vintage? I would say the 85, the 86s, maybe 87s, yes. Your early 80s, I would say those were probably right in that vintage thing, because when Paul started the company in 85, that's like the beginning of the thing, and they were more handmade. Like this one is actually a little bit more handmade than what you buy now. What you buy now, everything's pretty much CNC, blah, blah, blah. It's an assembly line right down the whole thing. Where this is, more hands-on stuff. Actually, I know one of the guys who probably made this guitar. But like Strats and stuff from the 90s, are they considered vintage? I don't think so. I really don't. I don't think a Strat, to me, vintage would be probably from about 1972 up. 72 up. It's kind of like once, we're in that 4-bolt range. That's where the vintage stuff is. All right, let's see. There's a bigger difference between guitars in the 50s and 90s. Yeah, there is a big difference. Yeah, I agree. The 90s stuff and the 50s and 60s stuff are just totally different guitars. Totally different. People talk about, we're talking about the Les Pauls. The older Les Pauls, when you get into the late 60s, or even early 70s, very early 70s, not late, like later. Okay, that's true. Exactly. The whole thing about the vintage stuff. But Les Pauls, earlier Les Pauls, early 70s and beyond, below that. No, it's not. I mean, Ernie Ball, like 70s, yes. Ernie Ball's from the 70s, yes. I mean, back when Music Man was part of Leo Fender. What is that? Yeah, I got part of that. Let me go grab my glasses, guys. Maybe I can see these things. Because my idea over here with the other screen did not work. Let me see. Okay, I'm gonna put my readers on. And we'll see if I can read your comments this time. I'll try. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, like there are the early Music Man stuff from the 70s. I would say that's probably considered vintage. Would I say like the 90s stuff that like the early EVH stuff? Maybe. I mean, that's earlier stuff as far as that line goes. I mean, anything like that can be collectible. 50 years, yeah, 50 years. I would say yes. You're pretty easy to say that's vintage. I wouldn't, like I said, this 90s stuff, unless it's a certain model. Like I said, this is close, but not quite. This is, it's early Paul Reed Smith. It is a handmade thing opposed to the whole machine-made thing. But yeah, there's such a big variance of guitars. But like you're asking about the 70s Les Pauls, why are they so expensive? Because they kind of fall into that almost vintage thing. I don't personally consider the 70s, like mid 70s vintage. Yeah, exactly. I agree with that. But the the Paul Reed Smith stuff, the Les Paul, like I said, I already talked about Paul Reed Smith, but Les Pauls, early 70s, very early. These mid 70s stuff with these pancake bodies with like 5 pieces of wood that was left over. A buddy of mine, Jeff DeHollander, actually worked at Gibson during that time period, and he said they would come into the, these guys were making these guitars and say, hey, there's wood on the ground, we need to use that. And that's where a lot of that came from, is those guys were actually having to use wood that was just chopped up, but the suits down the hall, as we used to call radio, we used to call them the suits down the hall. The marketing guys would tell us to sell spots and stuff when I was in radio. But these guys, suits down the hall for Gibson would come in, hey, that wood has to be used. We've got to use it. That's why a lot of times you would see these guitars with 5 or 6 different pieces of wood, or like 2 pieces on the side. I don't know if you ever see this. You'll see a split right in the side of a Les Paul, and that's because those guys said, hey, we need to use that wood. We're not a charity around here. We're not giving that wood away. So I don't know if you guys have ever heard that or not, but that's from a friend of mine that actually did work at Gibson during that time period when they were making those guitars, and he told me the whole story. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Actually, he's in one of my videos. If you watch the Orlando Guitar Show from this year, he brought in an SG Junior, and we talked about the SG Junior. That is Jeff's guitar, and he's the one that worked at Gibson for that's through the 70s and I believe the early 80s as well. So he has some great stories about Gibson, and he's not afraid to tell you about all the fun stuff. I realize people really pointed out the pre-Sivas Fenders. Yeah, well, I just sold my 65 Strat, and it was mint. $1K for a 76 Les Paul, that's cheap. That's cheap for him. I mean, I remember, God, I can tell you, people would bring, even the early days of this store, people would bring in Les Pauls. This 23 years ago. People would walk in the store and they'd have a Les Paul stand. And it was probably 70s, late 70s, whatever. and I'd give them $350 and off they go. And I'd sell that guitar for $700. You know, maybe seven, maybe $650, whatever. But that's how much those guitars went for. When I worked in a place in the 90s, when I got off the road and was in radio, I was working radio at night, I worked in a music store during the day, I was working with this guy and we were buying Les Pauls for $200. Les Paul Standards, Les Paul Customs for $250. We were selling them for $400, maybe $5 for a custom, maybe. You know, and I remember buying a Les Paul Jr. from a guy, and it was kind of funny because it was a 59 Les Paul Jr. And the guy brought it in and he said, you know, I want $500 for it. I jumped up a lot. Okay, you can do that. Well, my boss said, no, we can't give him $500 for that guitar. And I said, yes, we can. He's going, no, we're not giving that guy $500. I said, dude, I will have it sold this afternoon. He's like, no, I'm not giving him $500. I said, give me the money. I'm giving him $500. So he gave me the $500. I gave the guy the $500, wrote it up, took the guitar, picked up my phone, called a few of my other vintage guys, and I said, hey, got a Les Paul Jr. here, really good shape, you interested? That afternoon, guitar was gone. I was shipping it out to somebody. So it does happen, you know, or did happen back then. I mean, guitars, it was different. Let me just talk about this really quick because guitars back, I'm telling you guys stories today. It's kind of more stories and just kind of showing the way that things were back then. Back then, we didn't have pawn shops that looked up on eBay or looked up on Reverb. Now it's more, they do Reverb, and it's like, that's why you go to a pawn shop and you look at a Fender Strat, that's a Mexican Strat, and they want $900 for it. Because they look on Reverb and they see some guy that's on drugs thinking that he can get $900 for a player Strat. But yeah, back then we didn't have any of this online stuff. And even later we had eBay, but eBay back then was different because eBay, believe it or not, at one time, if you're new to this and you don't understand how eBay used to be, eBay didn't have pictures. They just had descriptions. So you would go on eBay and you'd look at something and you'd say, that's a Stratocaster. The guy says it's a newer Strat. Put serial number, and the serial number does, it comes out to, you know, a 95, whatever, you know, and that's, he wants $300 for it. I think I'll buy that. You buy the guitar, you know, you send the money. Back then, I mean, a lot of times were money orders. We were sending money orders to these people. You get the money, guitar comes, open the box. Guitar was either right, wrong, or broke. Many of these guitars, I remember I bought a guitar, a Viking, a Hackstrom Viking. It was like the late 60s, I think a 68 Hackstrom Viking. And we actually still do call this guitar the Elvis comeback guitar, because this was a guitar that Elvis played when he came back. And bought this guitar from this guy, I got it, it was broke. I mean, it was broke. And you know what? You're out the money. Yeah, you're out the money. UPS didn't cover stuff back then. They didn't cover it like that. You're out of luck. So things have got a lot better in these recent years, for sure, for the online consumer. But as I go back to my earlier comment about buying in person as opposed to buying online, you always know what you're going to get. Because lately, I have seen a lot more scams going on Reverb and eBay compared to past. I remember Reverb, when it first started, was great. And also with eBay, even though we had pictures, 90% of the time you got something off of eBay, it was legit. 65 Strat. Here's your $5,000. Boom, gone. Guitar shows up, it's legit. You know, it was a total different thing. You know, we trusted people. There was a trust thing going on eBay, even with pictures, just descriptions. We would actually just sit there and go, okay, he's legit. This guy knows what he's talking about. I'm going to order this thing and it's going to show up and it's going to be a great guitar. And it would show up and it was a great guitar. Put the glasses back on, well, no longer buy guitars on. Now you might get something from China. Exactly. And China has made some great fakes. They really are making some great fakes. You just have to watch that truss rod on Gibsons. But you can't see that. And a lot of times the guys will not take a picture of it. I'm not opening it up. That's it. I'm not opening that guitar up. If I tried to sell a 60s Strat or even a 70s Strat and I said, I'm not opening up, you know how many guitars I would sell? 0. Because of the whole thing, you got to see the inside of these guitars to see if they are legit or not. I mean, even like this, even though it's a 91, there might be somebody who comes in here and says, I want to see if this is real. Okay. Pull the pickups out. Actually, I just pulled this plate back here and you can tell everything about it right there. And that would be it. You know, it's a different world we live in now, for sure. The guitar world is an iffy world. It is iffy at best on a lot of stuff. So buyer beware with a lot of stuff. You know, you really got to know who you're buying from, and you know, if you're buying from, you know, Guitar Broker or Casino or even Alex and them over there at Flash Flood Gear. Alex is a good kid, man. I got nothing but good things to say about the kid. And he's 27, 28 years old. And sells a lot of guitars. He has learned a lot in a short period of time. He really has. And he's got some great gear. We've sold him quite a bit of stuff in the past. And we traded some stuff with him as well. We'll see him coming up in Sarasota in a month. Actually, let's talk about that real quick. Sarasota Guitar Show is the first week of June. We will be out there in Sarasota at the Robarts Arena. We'll be there doing the show with, I'm sure, Alex and Craig Brady from Guitar Broker and several other dealers. I know Rodney Highsmith is coming down. Rodney's been at several of the guitar shows. He'll be there. Probably Keith Myers, the vintage guitar specialist, will be there as well. I'll be there with my little buddy Bruce, and we'll be buying guitars and selling guitars. We're trying to buy a lot of guitars right now. We're trying to buy a lot of stuff because it has been slack in here. There have not been. I mean, I'm looking around, I'm not seeing anything that I can afford to buy. I know everybody, you know, you put stuff on Craigslist, whatever, and you can make money doing it that way. If you want to deal with the public, that's great. But some people, you know, used to be people would walk in here with guitars and say, I need to sell this. We're not seeing a lot of that anymore. Now it's I call pounding the pavement. That's what I call it. I call it pounding the pavement. That means I got to go out there and actually work my tail off on my days off to try to find guitars. So, but that's the way it is. But we got a guitar show coming up in first week of June over there in Sarasota, and we will be out there, and hopefully we'll find some stuff at the show. So, you know, we'll take some consignments, I'm sure, before then as well. We got some consignments as well sitting here from people, and you know, try to pick up some more of those before we do the show. So, anyways, anybody have any questions before I sign off of here? Have I answered everything? Have you guys learned a lesson today about some stuff? I hope. I hope today has been kind of informative. We haven't just talked about stuff. We've kind of, we've talked more about, I guess I've talked more. You know, this video probably should have went up as just a video talking about history and stuff like that, more than the live stream. I don't do a lot of these live streams. I mean, I'm just starting to do this, if you've just noticed. Enjoy the show. Yes, I will. I definitely will enjoy the show. I always love Sarasota. I used to play over there quite a bit, and I always love going back over there. Last time we went there, we met the Big Hurt. Frank Thomas was there. She'll like it too. Anybody know who Frank Thomas is? The Big Hurt? Anybody remember who he is? I met him, we were over there at the guitar show, and we actually met him in this place called Cha Cha Coconuts, which I used to play at. And he was over there, and I went over, hey, Mr. Thomas, I just want to let you know that a friend of mine, we have a friend together. Baseball player, exactly, yeah. A friend of mine, Dale Torberg, if you know who Dale is. Dale is a professional wrestler, wrestled as a demon, and he was a strength coach, and I think a batting coach or something to do with the Chicago White Sox. And I went over to Frank Thomas. As I had just talked to Dale. I said, hey man, there's Frank Thomas is here. He goes, go tell me I said hi. So I went over there and told him hi. And Frank Thomas knew exactly who he was and knew his dad really well. His dad actually just passed away, and which is terrible. But it was kind of cool. Frank Thomas, the Big Hurt, got to meet him. That was a big treat. Yeah, believe it or not, I was a sportscaster in radio. Yeah, I called sports. I was a sportscaster, and I was also a track announcer in NASCAR racing. Not NASCAR, but NASCAR affiliated track. And I did call some IMSA races as well. Did 24 hours racing and stuff like that. So anyways, so that's where my whole broadcasting stuff comes from. So just to let you know, I'm not just a hack. Let's see what I got here. I always try to explore with this little whatever. Just slopping around. Anyways, so guys, I hope today has been informative and all that good stuff, and you got something out of the show today. And until we come back next Wednesday, we'll be back again on next Wednesday. Try to get more back into the line of what we've been doing. Every Wednesday, just after 5 o'clock, we'll be on here. So set a reminder to be back here to check me out. Yeah, check me next time, definitely, Eric. I hope so. And you guys have a great one. I have to go to Best Buy because I need a new computer. Thank you. Thank you for the great riff. As I'm just messing around. So, and anyways, I will be playing this weekend. If you're in the Daytona Beach area, I'll be at the Hard Rock tomorrow night with Psychoustic. And then on Saturday, I will be with my band, The Occasional Astronauts, at Cypress Cove Resort over in the Kissimmee area. So if you're out and about and you're down here, come out and see me play and hack it up. Until next time, guys, thanks for watching and so long from the Sunshine State. If I can turn it off, can I turn it off? Oh my God. Ah!